Okay, so I've had my Razr 60 Ultra as my daily driver for a few weeks now, and it is time for me to deliver my thoughts on what this phone has been like as a daily driver. So this will be my full review on the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra. Let's get into it. Okay, so as you've seen in my unboxing video, I was actually really excited about this phone. So as soon as that video was over, I swapped my SIM out and have been using this as my daily driver since that point. I even left all my other devices at home and used this little deal right here as my main piece of tech during my trip to Las Vegas to the Peptide World Conference. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother type of subject. But yeah, let's get into what I think about this phone after daily driving for a little bit. And let's start with the specs. All right. So this was probably the thing that really drew me to this phone, is that these specs are out of this world, especially for this form factor. All right. So let's start off with, the platform. We know we got Android 15 and, yeah, so they haven't switched over to 16 yet. I know that's coming, but the chip, it is in this little package is all right, Snapdragon 8 Elite. Yeah, in this tiny form factor. They also have a 4,700 milliamp battery in this form factor, right? So I have to double check, but I really think that this is maybe the largest battery on a flip style foldable by a country mile. All right. We've got, GPUs are going to be the same Adreno 830 that pretty much everybody uses. No SD card slot, but we all know that's gone the way of the dodo bird pretty much for phones at this point. I have the 1 terabyte version, right? That means that this is also 1 terabyte and 16 gigabytes of RAM. Whew. Storage is going to be UFS 4.0. The camera setup is actually pretty interesting as well. We have two 50 megapixels on the front and a 50 megapixel on the inside. I'm so glad that they decided to take this serious as far as the cameras. The inner camera on a lot of other foldables is pretty trash. But because the excuse is, you have the cameras on the main, and then you have a screen for a viewfinder for the main camera, so you just do everything with the main camera. But that doesn't really work very well for video calls, so I'm so glad that they actually took the time to put a decent camera on the inside. Huge plus there. So as I said, the 50 megapixel selfie camera. The sound, we'll talk about that. It's loudspeaker with Dolby Atmos. Wireless LAN, looks like they have Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5, USB Type-C, all the typical things. Fingerprint scanner, fingerprint sensor, right? I love the design of having the fingerprint scanner on the side instead of in the screen. Now, they probably just do this because you can't really do that with the foldable screen yet, the under the screen fingerprint scanner. But I think this is just so much more convenient. For one, I think these are faster. For two, it gets around the issue of having inconsistent fingerprint reads once you put a screen protector on the phone. So I actually love that. And the other deal with the battery I should have mentioned is fast charging. This comes with 68-watt charging. Hallelujah. 30-watt wireless, right? Once again, that's as fast as some phones charge wired. And 5-watt reverse wireless. So flagship specs all the way around. This on paper is a premium device, but like I tell you here at the Gadget Inspector, we don't go off specs. So let's get into what it's like to actually use this phone as my daily driver, starting with the design. Okay, so right off of the bat, this is a really impressive design. I'm going to go ahead and get my biases out of the way. For one, I love foldables. I am a fan of foldables. I am one of these people that will tell you foldables are the future. And this phone is just another example of that. I mean, for one, just look at it. All right. Just look at it. It's premium. It has a design that tells all the other phones to kind of move over, right? I'm better than you. This is a thoughtful design. This backing right here, the Alcantara leather, it feels amazing. It's like nothing else on a phone to date. It just looks futuristic, and it has that appeal that most foldable phones have is that when you just pull it out of your pocket, it just makes people go, what is that? And you literally just have a conversation about foldables right there. People are going to want to check this thing out when you pull it out. And let's face it, as much as technology is a tool in this day and age, technology is also, it's a fashion accessory. Whether people want to admit it or not, it is. You look at the phone case market with all the expressions that you can put on it, wall screens, always on displays. That stuff is about making a fashion statement, and nothing does that better, in my opinion, right now, than the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra. But it's always been a fashion icon, even since 2003. It was that phone that you pulled out, and it was just like, oh yeah, it's kind of a baller phone. It looked good first and foremost. So same thing here. What else can I say about the design? The other thing, the really important thing on a foldable is the foldable inner screen. And if you can see here, I mean, this thing does not really have the crease is so small. It's so, okay, there we go. You can see where it folds, but the crease is very small, and that's actually pretty impressive. There have been people who are making foldables much longer that do not have that small of a screen. A lot of components packed into this small form factor. Now, the only hit I will give it on design is that it's pretty narrow. This is a 7-inch screen this way, but I would like to have this come out a little bit more because I just have big hands and it's a little difficult trying to two-hand type on this thing. It kind of misses me with that. But outside of that, definitely A+ on the design. All right, so with that being said, let's get into the battery. All right, so I laid out the specs for you already. 4,700 milliamp hours, 68 watt wire charging, 30 watt wireless, and 5 watt reverse wireless. So let me go ahead and tell you that the specs, it lives up to them. I could not get this battery to drain without doing an intentional test to drain the battery. Now, I haven't had this phone longer than a month, so take this with a grain of salt because I know I'm still within the honeymoon period for a new phone battery, but I also did not cut on any battery saving features. So it's hard to judge batteries without asking the questions of like, what brightness did you put your screen at? What apps are you using? Like, what's going on in the background? What do you even use your phone for on a day-to-day basis? I will tell you that when traveling, the battery is enough to handle your boarding passes, your digital boarding passes, entertainment in the airport, connecting to Bluetooth devices, scheduling Ubers, using GPS because you're in a place that you don't really know and trying to figure it out, and all the communication that happens in between there, with letting people know that you got there okay, trying to meet up with the people that you're meeting up with. All of that it handled with no issues. I never at a point was like, oh crap, let me reach for a charger. I wasn't in the airport like hustling or doing anything like that. It was trying to find a charger or a charging station or anything. I don't carry a battery pack. Some of the battery packs you can't fly with them on the plane if they're over 10,000 milliamp hours. So yeah, I didn't have to do any of that, and the battery just lasted on my long traveling days. So it gets an A+ for me. Not to mention, let's say you do have to charge it. All right, you've got up to 68 watts charging speed. So this thing is going to go super fast. You're going to get a significant amount of battery in a very short amount of time. So battery is just not a thought while you're using this device. Now, with that being said, I do have a couple gripes. So if you watched my unboxing video, you know that this thing does not come with a charger. And that's a problem because to get the 68 watt charging, you need a 68 watt power source. And so that's an additional $65 charge from Motorola. This phone, this version, the version that I have, the 1 terabyte, already cost $1,500. Motorola, come on. For $1,500, you can put a charger in the bag so that we can enjoy the 68 watt charging, like some other companies that have super fast charging. Yeah, as if that doesn't cost enough. But if you don't get the 68 watt charger from Motorola, you also can enjoy 50 watt wired charging, which is plenty. It's more than enough. You just forget that worrying about the battery with this deal. I do feel like this is an amazing thing. It's a class leading thing, I think, for the flip style foldables. But cramming this much battery did, I think, cause this phone to make some sacrifices that we'll talk about as we go through the review. But with that being said, let's move on to the sound. Okay, so sound is a critical part of any smartphone. It's one of the main things we're doing with our phone is talking to people, listening to things, all that good stuff. So if you can't hear, it kind of makes a phone a moot point. The speakers on this are fine. I'm going to play you a clip of the speakers and you let me know what you think, because that's probably the best thing I can do. And then I'll tell you my thoughts.
It's a present! Should we open it? Yes? You say open and we'll open it. Say open, say open, say open.
All right, that was an audio sample, so I don't know. Let me know what you think of that. I feel like it feels a little distorted. That was max volume.
Yes? You say open and we'll open it. Say open, say open, say open. Wow! It's a little...
Okay, recording from another flagship for comparison's sake. Okay, so after listening to that, I feel like there is a lot of distortion when we get loud. Also, when on phone calls, if you're in the traditional flip mode, which this phone is built for, it's the Razr, right? They're assuming you're going to be doing some talking like this, and then when you're done, you're just going to close it up. But when in a noisy airport or in some noisy environments like the conference halls that I was in over the peptide conference, it makes phone conversations a challenge. Whereas my other daily driver, I feel like took a lot of time to get the sound right, not just on the media playback end for the speakerphone, but for the inner mic speakers for phone conversations. So I had to basically put this thing on the loudest setting. I don't have hearing problems or anything like that, but it was difficult to hear. In some of the more noisy settings, I would have liked if they'd have paid more attention to the speakers. And I believe that this was part of some of the sacrifice of cramming a 4,700 milliamp hour battery in this phone. So I feel like the speakers were kind of casualty number one, but they're fine, right? It's not bad or anything, but to put the Ultra moniker on the phone, the speakers are one of the parts of this phone that doesn't quite live up. But with that being said, let's talk about one of the other more critical parts of a smartphone, and that's the display. All right, so this display is amazing. I'm going to read off the specs once more. Let's talk about this. All right, just so we get all the numbers right. Okay, we have a inner screen with a 464 ppi and a 84% screen to body ratio, and the outer screen even has a 417 ppi. It's Gorilla Glass ceramic, and it's reported to get up to 4,500 nits. So I will go ahead and tell you, I don't have a tester for that. I don't think that it's getting 4,500 nits of brightness. When I took this thing outside in the Las Vegas sun, I didn't struggle, but I definitely don't think that it was 4,500 nits. But it's a great screen, right? It's a great screen. It's a great outer screen. It's built for flexing, right? So it's definitely colors hit hard. They've got a lot of color science in there. They've partnered with I can't remember, was it Pantone to get all the color science right. And yeah, 1 billion colors, right? So they went above and beyond in the screen quality, and it shows. Once again, I think it's one of the highest quality displays that you get, display combos that you get on a flip style foldable. The cameras are also parked on the outer screen. I know it kind of looks like, why would you do that? It seems like a design flaw, but trust me, this gives you added utility And Motorola has come up with a way to make sure that the cameras on the screen actually don't really get in the way through the software. So if you look at the messages, you can see this cuts off down here, right? So it kind of knows that the cameras are there. So for certain apps, it will cut it off and make sure that you're not missing any information. As well as when your keyboard pops up, it doesn't go into this area. So they've got some intelligence around how they design those apps. But yeah, the displays are great, but I have the same gripe with this phone as I have with pretty much all of the foldables at this point, and it's this screen protector that's on the inside. This screen protector, I understand, serves a very important purpose, and they give you all the warnings about, hey, if you remove this screen protector, you're going to void your warranty. But I just feel like they need to put some type of coating, something on this to give it a little bit more higher quality of a feel, because this thing is an oil and fingerprint magnet. You are going to spend a significant amount of time just wiping your fingerprints off of this screen. That way you can actually look at the LTPO and enjoy the clarity of the screen, because you're going to be fighting to view it through fingerprints the entire time. But once again, this is not something exclusive to this phone. It seems to be more of a general foldable problem. And so I'm telling all manufacturers, man, invest in putting a better screen protector on this thing. But with all that being said, let's move on to another exciting part of this phone, which are going to be the camera setup. All right, full disclaimer. I always give the disclaimer before I talk about anybody's cameras, which is I'm not a camera buff, man. I do this as a hobby. So I don't have professional cameras. I don't have professional cameraman experience. I'm typically a point and shoot kind of guy. So let's start with the good. I mean, the cameras are fine. I'm going to go ahead and play a loop of some of the photos I took while I was in Las Vegas. It's the 50 megapixel triple threat here. I will talk about the quality of the images. I have no problem with the quality of the images. They come out pretty good. I think those Pantone colors make it so that you're not really messing with a whole lot. This is a couple of shots you'll see, obviously at night in Las Vegas is, low light photos. It does pretty well. There's no telephoto, which for me is a problem. I'm not one of these people who's going to lie to you and say, oh, well, I don't really use a telephoto. Now, on my daily, I use a telephoto all the time, especially if this is going to be the ultra level phone. It's an ultra level phone. And we're charging, remember, $14.99 for the version that I bought. And I bought that. Like, Motorola did not send me this. Nobody sends me phones. I'm a very small channel. So, yeah, $1,500 and no telephoto. Ouch. However, I will say that this setup right here, the outer screen with the cameras, it adds so much utility as a small content creator. You can flip this thing up like this and it's its own tripod, and you can use it like that. You can set it up like this, and once again, its own tripod, and then you're shooting at a different angle. It does have a camcorder mode. If you do like this, right, and it lets you control the zoom and some other things and gives it like an action cam style setup, it's fun. So my only complaint really with the cameras are lack of a telephoto and B, lack of controls. I know, as a self-professed point and shoot kind of guy, I missed some of the ultra and pro level camera controls that are on a lot of phones. So I will show you what that looks like. Now, I know that there are apps and things like that out there where you can go, oh, well, you can just use one of those apps, but this is just about what the phone does out of the box. Again, I'm in Dolby Vision mode in 4K 60. I hope this is set up right, because once you go into Dolby Vision, you can no longer use your front screen as a viewfinder. So I'm doing this kind of blind. Yeah, really disappointed in that. I was ready for this phone to make a splash with some of the camera features for content creators, but this is, to me, a ball drop. Really easy thing would have been to have your best camera settings work for the front screen, and I feel like they kind of let me down on that front. Also, I can't control the camera in any way, shape, or form from here. So I'm literally going to have to flip this around to stop the recording. So this is using the front screen as a viewfinder. Unfortunately, in order for me to do this, I had to shut Dolby Vision off, which is a huge miss in my opinion. And even though I can see myself on this camera, I can't do any operation with it. I can't shut it off. I don't know if they have gestures to start and stop the cameras, but yeah, I'm going to have to literally flip this around to stop and start my recording, which I think is a huge miss. It's one of the things that I talk about in the performance section. The software, in my opinion, for this foldable is just not there. I'm on the front screen with the front screen controlled camera. I have even less options here. I was able to put it into 4K 60 mode once again so that you can see the quality. But I'm actually this time not using a tripod. I am using this phone kind of tilted like in on its side in camcorder modes that you can see what this looks like. Super convenient. I love the ability to do this. I would have liked to be able to set it up with the inner screen, have that continue on the outer screen. Like I talk about later in my review, there's not a lot of continuity with the software. It once again hits here on the camera side of things. But yeah, this is 3 video samples from 3 different ways to film on the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra. Also, in this mode, unlike some of the other competitors in the foldable space, I don't have a way to stop and start the camera without going and touching the screen. Some other ones have gestures that you can do, words that you can say that will stop and start the camera. I would like for that to be implemented on the Motorola, especially when you come out and say, hey, my foldable is my flagship. We need those features in there. With that being said, there's also what it was like to record the video. So I feel like it looks good, but there was issues shooting it. So this camera stutters a lot when you're in, that was 4K 60. When you're in 4K 60, the camera, it stutters. It's really slow. The phone gets hot. And so it looks good, but it definitely wasn't fun to shoot, especially in 4K 60. It was some of the more difficult camera controls as a solo creator. But yeah, that's kind of where it is. It's not a bad camera system, but I would appreciate more pro or what you call ultra level controls on the camera setup that you get, and a telephoto lens. All right, so speaking of hot, let's talk about the performance. So on paper, once again, we went over all the specs. You look at Snapdragon 80 Elite, you look at 16 gigabytes of RAM. I'm sorry, UFS 4 memory speed. And you think, God, powerhouse. But like I said, the specs never tell the full story. So for me, it was all good until I started asking this phone to do some of the higher level things that I tend to ask my phones to do. And this is another area I think that having all that battery packed into this tiny little form factor starts to hurt the Razr 60 Ultra. And I don't think that they allowed enough space for a heat sink or vapor chamber to appropriately cool this phone. Because asking this phone to do any type of high level task, this phone gets really, really hot really fast. And then we start to get the downscaling, the hindering of the chip performance in order to compensate for some of that heat. It kills the whole performance thing. I would much rather them have a slightly weaker chip that doesn't get hot, or slightly less RAM, or slightly less battery that can appropriately cool the phone so that we can get the performance out of it. And just for you to know that I'm not just, talking out of my mind here, let's pull up the Geekbench scores and the Antutu scores so that you can see with phones that have the same Snapdragon 8 Elite chip and either less or the same amount of RAM as the Razr 60 Ultra perform. So as you can see here, it still packs a punch. I'm not saying that it's, awful, but the idea of you've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, but you're kind of you're never the best performer. And it's the user experience of having that phone heat up all the time. I don't think that it was worth it. I would have liked to see a slightly weaker chip that you can manage the heat well in it. Because if it's just going to throttle at the sign of heat, there's kind of no point in having this, as you can see. Good performance, but not great performance. So whenever I was doing GPS or Android Auto or anything like that, or recording video, which is really important, right? This is for sure a creator's phone. I'm not gonna lie about that. The heat management kind of kills it. Another thing with the performance that I wasn't really feeling was the discontinuity. So I really felt like this software is not fully baked. I had a ton of glitches. And then there's the continuity between the front and the inner screen. So I feel like on a foldable, that is a make or break experience. Like when you have those two screens, they have to play together well. They each have to do its purpose and they each have to actually be complementary to one another. I didn't like the idea of once I close this and operate my camera, I lose camera functions, namely the pro video option that I like to use when recording my YouTube videos. There's also the discontinuity with other apps. So typically, if you close the phone while using an app, it will take you out of your app. Now you can opt certain apps in to do that. But if I wanted that experience across the board, if I just wanted to say, hey, whenever I close this phone, don't exit out of anything that I'm doing. You have to go and manually select each app that you want to behave in that fashion, which is fine-ish. I get it. You got to spend, this is Android, right? I tell people, if you want a phone that you just buy and start using and it's perfect, go get an iPhone, leave Android alone. So I understand there's going to be some setup time, but even after doing that, it didn't particularly work very well, especially with my YouTube app, which is an app that I use a lot. I'm always listening to a podcast on there. I've purchased so much digital content on there. I've got NFL, game day, the NFL Sunday ticket. So I watch a lot of content on YouTube, and it was super frustrating to me to have the disconnected experience. So even when you select continue the app on the front screen, a lot of times what happens is that the app will either kill itself or restart. And it's like, oh, wait, I was actually watching a video, but you took me out of that video, restarted the app, and I either have to find it again or it just behaves like you just opened the app all over again. At the very best it does, it just makes you restart the video, which is kind of annoying. I'm kind of used to just walking around with my earbuds in, doing a thing or two, and then close it up, put it in my pocket, keep walking while I'm listening to my podcast or whatever. That's not really the experience the two screens provide. They're almost like two separate entities, even after you go and set everything up. So that was a bummer. But yeah, other than that, it's got decent performance. Don't get me wrong. Once again, you look at the benchmark scores, it's still ahead any other flip style foldable. The other phones that beat it are going to be traditional candy bars that have got this thing figured out. So yeah, it's solid, but I can't say that it's offering a real power user's experience. And that's mostly just due to the software, quite frankly, even after we forgive some of the heat throttling. All right. So with that being said, let's talk about some miscellaneous things, some things that don't really fit into really any other category that are hallmark things of this phone. One of them is going to be AI. Listen, I know. As soon as I say AI, some people's ears just shut off. But listen, I wouldn't be a real tech enthusiast if I didn't talk about this stuff. As well as you guys listening, AI is here to stay, apparently. And so you should pay attention. I learned to use the features. I will tell you that the Motorola phone actually has a really useful AI features. I won't bore you to death with everything, but the one that I did find useful was the catch me up feature, which will kind of go through and like read your text messages and other notifications that you have going on and give you a recap of the day and kind of suggest some things for you to do. Like, it's super helpful. As somebody who runs like a small business and I'm like the only person in this business, it's really helpful to make sure that I'm serving all my clients well, that I don't miss a text message or something. It's one thing if you only interact with your friends and family, but when you are interacting with sometimes like 20, 30 people a day, it's easy to miss a text message or something like that. So the catch me up summarizes everything that I'm trying to do or doing and lets me know, hey, you might want to text this person back. This seemed important. So I actually really love that feature. Also, this phone is compatible with the Clicks case. It just clicks. And so one of the things that I feel like was a mistake of modern smartphone design was getting rid of physical keyboards. I love physical keyboards. And so this is probably, let me think. this might be one of the, if not the best phone that you can get a Clicks case on. Yeah, I mean, this is the Razr 60 Ultra, which is the biggest, baddest phone that Motorola makes. And there are Clicks cases for some of the smaller versions. Like you can get it for a Google 9 Pro, but not the 9 Pro XL. You can get it for the iPhone Pro, but not the Pro Max. Now, this is a smaller phone, but you can get a Clicks case for it. And I'm a huge fan of everything that they're doing at Clicks. And that's just one of the factors that helped me that actually influenced me to buy this phone was like, hey, I'd love to be able to slack a physical keyboard on this thing and get going. And it adds a different level of functionality and brings you some of your screen real estate back when you're actually trying to multitask. However, I will say that the discontinuity of software, so what I've experienced with this phone, and I am attributing this to this phone and not the Clicks case because of the experience that I've also had with the software, the buggy experience I've had with the software, is that my Clicks case will stop working a lot when you go from using it open to close. It's almost like it resets the app and everything like that, and it makes for a super frustrating experience. I have gone in, I did dig through online help forums to try and get it right. It never worked right for me consistently. That's why you don't see the clicks on the phone at the moment. But yeah, if they ever figure out what's wrong with it, it's there, and I love using a physical keyboard. All right, so what is my conclusion on the Razr 60 Ultra? All right, so I think that this is a really good swing at a flagship and is flagship level. I don't know that I would call it ultra level. It has a couple of kinks to work out. And I just think that two really big things that have to happen before this phone is considered one of the best is you've got to go through and make sure that the marriage between the software is right. This isn't the first Ultra, right? This isn't the first Razr. They've had a couple of years to try and figure out making sure that this is a really seamless experience. And then we got to get the camera game right, right? We got to get a telephoto lens, at least have one there. That way we can say, all right, this is true flagship level stuff. I think the quality's there. The design I love. We've got to figure out how to stop the phone from heating and throttling so much, especially on an Ultra. That's not cool. No pun intended. But yeah, I think it's okay. And then one of the biggest problems with this phone right now is the price. Look, this retails for the 512 gigabyte version at $12.99. And the version that I got, the 1 terabyte 16 gig, at $14.99. So that I think is putting it in competition with some things that this phone really shouldn't be in competition with, either way you go. So you can go with a OnePlus 13 for much less, and you're going to get the charger that allows you to charge at the super fast speed. You're going to get better performance, right? And you're going to get better durability with a candy bar. You're going to get better cameras. You can go with the S25 Ultra for pretty much the same price at full MSRP. And then you're going to get, once again, you're going to get better cameras. You're going to get bigger battery. You're going to get, slower charging. But a much better, much more refined experience on Android. So at the price point, it's hard. If it slid under there, man, at, if it's $8.99 for the 512, even if it's $9.99 for the 512, and then maybe $12.99 for the 1 terabyte version, then I go, okay. But I think that the pricing is off, not necessarily the phone. The phone I think is fine. But of course, when you're in that ultra price range, you got stiff competition, man. But yeah, as for me, personally, I'm going to be taking my SIM card out of this one and going back to my previous daily, which was the S25 Ultra. But that doesn't mean that this is a bad phone. I do want Motorola to keep working. I do want Motorola to keep making phones because it's good. It's refreshing to have an option, to have somebody that's taking a swing at making the flagship and the ultra level phones. So, I hope the phone does well. And so I really appreciate that from Motorola. But let me know what you think. Have you been rocking with the Razr 60 Ultra? Do you have some things that I've missed? There are some points that I didn't cover. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching.